France has been hit by a wave of street protests after the government introduced a security bill. It causes unrest in Paris, provoked by recent episodes of police brutality and President Emmanuel Macron's security plans, which the demonstrators say would restrict civil liberty. Rallies also took place in Marseille, Lyon, Lille and other French cities. Police fired tear gas after hooded protesters smashed shop windows and set several vehicles alight. The weekly nationwide protests are becoming a major crisis for President Emmanuel Macron's government, with tensions intensified by the beating of a black music producer by police. So what is so controversial about this new security law? The protests come after the proposed law was passed in Parliament. The law is set to be examined by the Senate in January, although some say it is unlikely to be passed by the higher house. The bill was presented by ruling party La République En Marche. Its aim is to bring in more legislation around the use of public images, and help improve security. The 3 articles of the bill had caused controversy. Articles 21 and 22 of the proposed global security law allow the police and the gendarmes wire paramilitary forces to use body cameras and drones to film citizens, and allow the recorded footage to be live-streamed to the command post. Article 24, which is most controversial, is a provision of the global security law, which Macron presented to the National Assembly, the lower house of the French Parliament, on November 17. It aims at criminalizing the sharing, printing or issuing of photos of on-duty policemen with the motive of harming their physical and psychological integrity. Going against this article can fine up to €45,000 or a year of jail sentence. Macron's government says the measure was intended to protect police officers and their families from harassment and threats, and has insisted press freedoms will not be compromised by it. This can be an apt reason to introduce this bill. There have been several attacks against police in France. Some 40 people tried to rush a police station in the suburbs of Paris on the night of October 10, wielding metal bars and shooting off fireworks. Back in 2016, a police commander and his wife were stabbed to death by a man who had been previously convicted of terrorism and who claimed to be connected to ISIS. After stabbing the officer outside of his home, the attacker entered the residence and killed his wife. So what the opponent of law is saying? Critics have highlighted 2 instances of police excesses within 1 week at the end of November that grabbed national attention, which they argue would have been left unreported had the proposed law been in place. The first incident occurred on November 23, when the French police were clearing a temporary migrant camp in central Paris. Video footage showed officers using riot shields to shove people before using tear gas, and some were seen chasing migrants through side streets. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo called the incident unacceptable, and accused the police of employing a brutal and disproportionate use of force. The second incident occurred on November 30 when 4 French officers charged over beating and racial abuse of black music producer Michel Zetzler. Those opposed to the new law have decried what they describe as the hardening of police response to protests in recent years, especially after the Yellow Vest demonstrations of 2018. The bill has been strongly criticized by journalists and rights groups who argue that it would curtail press freedom and lead to less police accountability. If it is enacted, it risks endangering journalists and other onlookers who film officers at work, especially during violent protests. They say documenting and sharing the actions of violent officers is essential in stopping future incidents of police brutality.
That would forbid us from filming, while we are filming unbelievable things. So here I am, in the street for my freedom.
It's important not to let this law pass because it would destroy our freedom to inform, especially when we're seeing.
The United Nations Human Rights Chief has urged France to withdraw a controversial part of its global security bill that would curb the freedom to share images identifying police. What is more significant is, some see the proposed law as part of an attempt by Macron to appeal to more right-wing voters in the 2022 election. Bloomberg reported that 58% of the French public supported the law. The problem is that the French government wasn't super careful, and it presented a bill whose real intent and purpose wasn't entirely clear. Mass demonstrations were the result, after 4 French police officers were charged on November 30 over the beating and racial abuse of black music producer Michel Zetzler. Lawmakers from Macron's party pledged a complete rewrite of part of the draft law. The French government is now rewriting the police filming law to make its intentions clearer.
That the contentious Article 24 will be fully rewritten.
Force est de constater qu'aujourd'hui, le choix légistique que nous avons fait a laissé s'installer l'équilibre que nous avons recherché sur cet article 24 n'a pas été unanimement perçu.
No one knows how long the rewriting will take, or when the changes will be made public. So the protests are likely to continue.